Before this video starts, I want to remind you guys that the 50 subscriber / birthday stream will be on August 31st at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. With that, let's get straight into the video. So recently I made a deck profile on Paleozoic, and while that's an amazing stun deck, the more popular and in my opinion better option is True Draco. True Draco has been seeing more popularity recently, and with that I felt it would be important to show you guys what this deck is all about. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys my True Draco Demise deck profile as of August 2018. Starting with the monster lineup, I played 3 copies of Ignis Heat, 2 copies of Majesty Maiden, and 1 copy of Dynamite Fighter. Let me start by explaining how the deck works. The deck is a stun deck that revolves around tributing continuous spells and traps in order to tribute summon monsters, while gaining incredible amounts of advantage because of that. The deck rarely uses the extra deck, and in turn doesn't require you to special summon any monsters. This is beneficial for using draw cards like Card of Demise and Pot of Duality, but I'll get to the spell lineup later. To get a basic understanding of how this deck can accrue so much advantage, even though requiring a lot of resource investment to do so, can first be shown with the monsters. So getting back to the monster lineup, each monster has the same line of text which states, to tribute summon this card face up, you can tribute a continuous spell / trap card you control instead of a monster. This is as I explained how you get these tribute summon monsters on the field. However, they also have an additional effect which can get you searches for a continuous True Draco / True King spell with Ignis, a True Draco / True King monster with Majesty Maiden, and a True Draco / True King continuous trap with Dynamite. These effects occur when an opponent activates a card or effect. This basically means the first time the opponent does something, you can use its effect. However, I forgot to mention that the True Draco archetype has shared lore with True Kings, and in turn these cards can be used in a True King deck. However, the True Draco are by far the superior deck. I played 3 copies of Ignis because every single spell in this deck is incredibly powerful. Majesty is required at 2 to make sure you are able to see the True Draco monsters consistently enough, and even though Dynamite is arguably the best one, it's limited to 1 copy, so I only play 1. The last 2 monsters are Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This card is one of the better hand traps you can run in this deck, as it can use its effect from field as well. This is relevant not only because of card demise, but as well the True Draco continuous spells give additional normal summons to True Draco monsters. Long story short, the spells are probably the most important cards in the deck, and you need to make sure you can get max value off of them. Speaking of spells, I can now get into the spell lineup, starting off with 3 copies of the field spell Draconic Diagram, along with 2 terraforming to search it out. This is probably the most important card of the deck, being able to access any True Draco / True King card you need, while being able to do this once per turn. However, this card also summarizes very well one of the core issues of this deck. To search a card from the deck to the hand, you need to destroy 1 card on your field or in your hand. This isn't always an issue, but my point is this deck does require a good amount of resource commitment in order to get things rolling. However, to fix this issue, we have very powerful draw spells. Starting off with the True Draco's continuous spells, we have 3 Heritage and 3 Disciples. These cards enable you to make plays on the first turn and turn your resource commitment into more cards. Heritage is similar to the banned spell Super Rejuvenation, as it enables you to draw cards depending on how many True Draco card types were sent from the field to the graveyard this turn. Disciples is basically a Digusto Emerald for True Draco cards, but in addition to these effects and the additional normal summons like I was stating earlier, when sent from the field to the graveyard, these spells can destroy and spell its trap on the field. This is crazy amounts of card advantage. The monsters get you searches, and the spells not only give you cards in hand, they also take away cards from your opponent's field. The rest of the spells are draw spells, including the best but not generic draw spell ever created, Card of Demise, and so I played 3 copies of it. This card has restrictions on it, but the restrictions are honestly irrelevant in this deck. You, long story short, draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand. You do have to send all cards in your hand to the grave during the end phase, but most of the time this doesn't matter as we're only playing 8 monsters, and you can set everything else. Pot of Duality I feel doesn't need explanation. It's a standard 3 of in every list no matter what, as you almost never special summon in this deck. Pot of Desires might be controversial in the deck as of recent memory, as a lot of people are cutting it. However, I stated earlier this deck does require initial resource investment in order to go off. Pot of Desires is able to get you those initial resources. In my opinion, this card should most certainly be played in the deck at least 2 copies. even though it does banish in-deck resources you might need. I value getting the extra cards over having the main deck resources. Moving on to the traps, we have the true Draco traps. I played 3 copies of Apocalypse and 1 Return, as Return is limited in the TCG. Both the traps are similar to spells and how they can destroy monsters on the field when sent from the field to the graveyard instead of spells and traps. Both also have the ability to enable you to tribute summon monsters on your opponent's turn. This is amazing because it offers more disruption for the deck. The way this occurs is because the spells and traps are getting sent from the field to the graveyard. This lets you pop cards your opponent controls. Return can, as its name states, special summon a true Draco from the graveyard. I know I stated this deck doesn't special summon much, but this card does it usually on your opponent's turn. Apocalypse can send a true Draco card you control to the graveyard to have the attack and defense of all monsters your opponent controls. This doesn't sound good at first, but it can be used as disruption. Again, this is because they are being sent from the field to the graveyard. The stat deduction is also surprisingly really good. Infinite Impermanence is probably the best support True Draco has received in a while, as it's a hand trap that's actually a trap. This card is great because you can set it and not have to worry about demise. I played 3 Rivalry of the Warlords and 2 Gozen match. These floodgates are amazing in this format, and I feel they are a must-have in the deck. I play 1 Skill Drain, as it's probably the most broken trap in the deck. And lastly, I play Waterfall of Dragon Souls. This card is actually absurd in the deck. It essentially gets you much more value than you think. Its effect is as follows. Activate one of these effects. Option 1, add 1 worm-type monster from your deck to your hand. Or option 2, send any number of worm-type monsters from your hand and / or face up from your field to the graveyard. Draw cards equal to the number of monsters you sent to the graveyard plus 1. Let's say your opponent has 3 spells in their grave and targets your Ignis Heat with Afterburners. First you get the Ignis Heat effect to search, then you chain Waterfall and send the Ignis to the graveyard. This not only draws you 2 cards, you get the search off of Ignis and your opponent just wasted an Afterburners. This scenario is a practical example that comes up and is very powerful. This is why I love this card in this deck. So I 100% think you should play at least 2, but I think 3 is a little too much. So that's honestly about it for the deck. You don't really need the extra deck because this deck rarely special summons or just needs it in general. I play Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries in the side deck, so I mainly use the extra deck as Cherries targets. I play Freezodon and Full Armored Crystal Zero Lancer to get over big hard to deal with monsters, and I play Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. That might seem a little weird, but because I play Ghost Ogre, I can synchro summon a level 8 monster. So I chose Scarlet for the slot because it can get over a common hard to deal with board that Koki puts up very simply, which is Nightmare Phoenix and Goblin. And that's about it. Besides the Reapers, which I think everyone should be playing the side deck is up to you. And remember guys, don't take my list for the end all be all, it's just my current list. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you guys had any changes you would make to the list, comment down below. I took a lot of inspiration from Justin Singh and Elise Davis's list from the ARG, so go check out their deck profiles for the original list. If you enjoyed the video, I would love for you guys to like and subscribe, it helps me out immensely. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.